Hello, welcome to The Wandering Drew. I am Drew. On today's episode, I'm going to discuss selecting a first trail to do a hike. Last week, I made some suggestions on your first hike, with being close to home as being one of them, but also being conservative in the distance and doing a short hike. I would suggest anywhere from 2 to 5 miles for a first short hike, depending on your fitness level. And even if you are very fit, there's nothing wrong with doing just a 2 to 3 mile hike to test your equipment and see how you enjoy it. And remember, you have other people in your party, and you have to gear that trail, your trip that you're doing, toward the person that has the slowest pace and also may have any limitations on doing a hike, whether it's a physical condition, usually, a bad knee or weak knees, or they're not sure how their body's going to react to hiking. But if you know they have a pre-existing condition like a knee and ankle or a back problem, you want to be a little more conservative in selecting distance and probably reduce that to allow them to try hiking with you and do a trail without risking injury by overdoing it. One of the things that you should be looking for, and we discussed, is limited elevation change. You don't want to go on a trail that has too much up or too much down when you're first starting out. So you want to pick something that has a limited elevation change, meaning there's not too much up or too much down in the trail, which would make it more challenging and would be harder on your body. You also want to make sure it has an easy rating. No matter what system you're doing and who's doing the rating, easy is generally easy. And that will make sure it doesn't have a lot of elevation change or anything technical in it, like river crossings or scrambles up rocks or things like that. I also discussed some other factors that you may want to consider. Look for something that has a parking lot and is easily accessible, as well as perhaps a bathroom, a latrine, a porta potty, some place for you to go to the bathroom, because going to the bathroom in the woods is usually a concern for most people that are not familiar with being out in the woods. And depending on what you're doing, what business you're doing, and your sex, there is a difference. Males, due to the plumbing, it's not very hard to go urinate in the woods, and I think most males are pretty comfortable with doing that. However, obviously for females with the plumbing difference, going to urinate in the woods is a problem, and probably up there with both sexes of going poop in the woods, which most people have a problem with. So you want to make sure there are some services or facilities nearby where you're going to go hike. Water may be an issue, but generally you're going to be able to carry the amount of water for your first hike with you, and that should not really be a concern, but a bathroom might be. Additionally, I would suggest if you have a group that some of the dynamics of the group are discussed or at least covered, one person may need to take the lead and be the leader in terms of planning the trip. Doesn't mean they have to physically be the leader of the group, but someone's going to have to do most of the planning. It's easier if one person does it, in terms of picking a trail and getting the information. However, you can decide from the group how you're going to do it. Are you going to vote on it? Are you going to present it to them and everyone approves it? If they're just happy with you taking the lead because it's your trip and they're just coming along and they trust you and they're just happy, hey, we'll show up where you tell us to, then it makes it easier, but it also makes it harder. That means there's more work for you to do. If you already are a person that likes doing that, then it's not an issue. But there's a lot of dynamics anytime you have a group and trying to plan an activity, and you'll have to work that out on your own. Some alternatives are each person gets a pick of a trail, so they get to do the trail they want, and everyone basically commits to doing it. You may want to give people voting rights, hey, I don't want to go on that trip. But generally, if you're picking from the guidelines and easy trails, shouldn't be a problem. By then you have a little experience, and hopefully you have someone that's going with you that is like-minded and similar in ability, and it usually is not a problem. You can always delegate different jobs, divide them up. Like I may be picking the trail and take care of all the information, the research on that, getting maps and stuff. Someone else could be taking care of logistics in terms of transportation, getting us there and back from the trail. Another person could be even responsible for, hey, I'm going to make sure that I bring, snacks or food for everybody. And then you could rotate those around. So next hike, we each have a different job. That's like if there's 3 people. Or if there's only 2 people, you can easily divide it. Hey, you take care of driving this time. I'll pick the trail and do the research, and next time you're going to pick the trail and I'll do the driving. But you can work it out any way you want. However, no matter how you decide to work out the dynamics of your group and planning a hike, everyone should really know what trail you're going on or what you're doing, at least if not in advance, definitely the day when you start the hike. There are many resources that are available to find hikes, and it's never been easier to locate trails and places to go hiking due to the availability of information on the internet. However, there's still a place for the printed material and books and magazines. There are numerous resources out there. The library is always a resource. Almost any area I've ever researched or looked for, someone somewhere has written a book about the trails or a park or a hike that you can do in the area. And that's very, very simple to do. If you usually start doing a search or you go to the library, they'll probably have books available, local books that usually list that, and the librarian will be able to help you. Additionally, you can choose to contact a hiking club or other hikers in the area and use them as a resource. There's always books and magazines like Backpacker Magazine that lists hikes, but it may not necessarily be in your area. But over time and looking at back issues of the magazine, you may be able to find a hike that's in your area. It may be newer, it may be old. No matter what area you're in, I've always been able to find some sort of local person that has published a book that lists hikes or trails in the area. If you have a park, especially like a state park or a national park in your area, it's guaranteed that there's probably some hiking trails there, and that someone has written either a publication on it, there's at least a pamphlet or a manual or a handout that they give out for people to know and be aware of the trails, which probably includes a map. If you're by a park, previously mentioned, there's always some sort of handout or pamphlet, and the park itself, the rangers or the visitor station, will be a good resource for you that you can go contact either by telephone or in person when you go to the park and get those information. Hiking clubs, almost every area has some sort of hiking club. You can usually contact them. They may have a lot of information available. They may themselves publish something. They usually, if there's a trail that they maintain, they usually have maps and books on that trail that they publish in order to fundraise so you can support them. Additionally, they'll also have members that will be familiar with the area and will be able to give you a good suggested first or second hike. And maps will usually be provided or be available through them, or they can direct you to where that is. They may have a website as well, or a Facebook page that you can look at. The website itself will be more informative because it'll generally have more information. They may already be planning a hike. Most groups have pre-planned hikes that they have for their members, and some of them they allow people that are not members to go on. You may want to join and become a member to go on a hike with them, but once again, as I discussed last time, this is twofold. One, the hike is already planned. You just need to show up. They generally tell you what the fitness rating is or how hard it is before you go on the hike, because they want you to be able to complete the hike. So if you say you're a beginning hiker and you let them know what you're looking for, they can usually guide you and say, well, we have a hike coming up on an easy trail, or I would suggest this trail for you to do. And those are very good resources because they're very familiar with hikers, your ability, new hikers, and getting people out there that do not have a lot of experience. You can also do searches online. I've always been able to, if you type in almost any, like a Google search or Bing, whatever you use to do searches, if you just type in hiking trails and either a zip code or a city name, you will usually get a whole list of trails in the area or a bunch of websites that you can link to. If there are any outfitters or providers in your area that provide equipment, you might be able to reach out to them. They may offer hikes as well, or they might do a shuttle, a ferry service, or guide service. And if that's the case, then you can use them as a resource to help you know what trails to go on, even if you're not using their services. If they're even advertising that they do beginning hikes to certain trails, then that's a good clue. If they're taking hikers out there for a first trail, then obviously that's a good first trail, because they're not going to take people out there so they can fail. They're going to take people where they can succeed. Hello, Drew here. I decided to end this episode due to the fact that the next topics will be lengthy and I wish to discuss them together as they relate to one another. I will be continuing on how to select a first trail by showing how you can discover trails in any area and some of the websites that will be useful in this search. Till we meet again.